A big question in the combat sports world is, does technique beat power? I'm gonna use some examples and kind of discuss what I think about that subject. I think in the UFC, one of the biggest examples of power beating technique would be Robert Whittaker and Dricus du Plessis. As we know, Robert Whittaker got knocked out in this fight in the second round, I believe. But Rob has the better technique, but when you have good technique, you are more of an outpoint kind of fighter. Fighting is all about damage. How do I inflict damage on you? More damage than you can inflict on me. Now, obviously, the people who are more powerful, they don't have to land as much or do as much to have that damage inflicted on their opponent, which makes a lot of hard punchers not be better at outpointing people. But fighting itself isn't an outpointing man's game. It's simply just a person who can do more damage. And this fight showed it extremely well. Robert Whittaker early on was not really landing much, but he was doing things. He would hit the guard or he would sneak around it a little bit, but nothing that clean, nothing that was doing a lot of damage. But when Dricus would land, it was clean, or it was grazing, or it was damage inflicting, or much closer to finishing the fight than Whittaker. Moments like that did no damage at all. But that, even though that missed, you can see the difference, the intention behind this strike. Rob is trying to outpoint him. He's not trying to make Dricus uncomfortable. He is simply trying to outpoint him. Dricus is trying to make Robert uncomfortable and is trying to finish him. Again, jab, jab, but didn't do a lot. Now that landed clean, but what effect did it have? Not that much. Another left hook. There is nothing in this fight that makes Dricus uncomfortable. Now that example, what was the intention behind that? What was the intention? Are you trying to do damage or are you just trying to outpoint the guy? Now I know style's always just a style, but this is simply about, does this style or does technique beat power? And in this instance, it obviously doesn't, but I'm just explaining why it doesn't. Now that was good, but look at the body language. Rob throws his jab with defense behind it. Look at Dricus. Kind of got that goofy way of fighting with his mechanics. Going real hard. And then Rob comes up and lands a glancing right hand. But look at Dricus. He just takes it. There's not enough behind it. There's not enough damage dealt in sequences like that. It might look nice. A lot of fighters look good when they fight. But what are you actually doing in a fight to win? What are you doing to land damage? What are you doing to make your opponent uncomfortable? The difference between it didn't do as much. It landed clean. I don't know if he was hurt, but he was stuck for a bit. Now Rob's uncomfortable because he's backed up after just getting hit with a good shot. And this is tiring. Backing up like this and punching someone and they just back up and then close the distance again and close the distance again and close the distance again. That is tiring when you can't do damage. Again, jab, jab, jab. But what did you do with that? You backed them up, didn't close the distance, and then gets hit with a leg kick, then a hard jab, then boom, boom. That's uncomfortable. That's the best shot of the round. Not super technical, but it's doing damage. It's making his opponent uncomfortable. Dricus throws that right hand, is out of position. Rob throws a jab, uppercut, left hook. What did it do? Absolutely nothing. So the point I'm trying to make here is it's not necessarily about technique or power. It's about the damage inflicted on your opponent or how you're making your opponents uncomfortable. That is the main thing in fighting. Now, if someone else has another point or another perspective, let me know in the comments. This is how I think. You can have all the technique in the world, but if you're not, like I've said multiple times, you're not making your opponent uncomfortable or doing damage, what are you doing in that fight to win? You can obviously outpoint someone by doing what Rob's doing if they don't have the power. But against someone like Dricus who is looking for a finish and is good enough to get one, obviously against a guy who's just winging overhands or winging hard shots every time and not really thinking behind it, you're more than likely going to win with this because they can't really hit you. They can't really bind anything. And over time, they're going to get tired. But someone who punches, who is trying to finish you, who also has a skill set that can get to you, that can make you uncomfortable, that is a whole different ballgame. Now, examples of technique beating power, you could mention Israel Adesanya versus Alex Pereira 2, where would you look at that? Izzy did damage and knocked him out. You could say Ankalaev and Alex 1. You could mention that fight. And in boxing, there is a lot of technique beat power, but boxing is more of an art than just a fight. Best boxers are always going to, 80-90% of the time going to beat the harder puncher. Like, hey, Shakur versus Tio. Tio obviously has the power advantage. The much better boxer is Shakur. Shakur was doing more damage in that fight. Shakur was landing more consistently. Tio couldn't get close, couldn't really do anything, because every time he would try, he would get popped with a jab. That's why fighters like Sugar Ray Leonard or Terence Crawford or even Floyd, you could mention, especially in his early days, they had the technique, they had the IQ, they had all of it, but they also could punch. They are the best fighters. Boxer punchers who can do most things at a high level also have the skill set or the power to finish you in a fight or to make you uncomfortable. They are always the best fighters and forever will be the best fighters. But I just wanted to talk about this for a little bit, and that's all.